We're standing by for the release of the April jobs report next hour, so we'll bring you that when it comes. But the report will give us some important clues about where the U.S. economy is headed, as economic alarm bells have been sounding, recession odds have been climbing, and frustration in many camps has been building around Trump's economic policies, including his trade war with China specifically. But breaking overnight, a slight tone shift from Beijing. China says it is currently assessing proposals by the United States to begin trade talks, and U.S. futures are higher this morning on that news. CNN's Mark Stewart joins us now from Beijing. So, Mark, what else are you hearing at this point? I believe we have, there you are. Mark, what else are you hearing this morning on this front?
Hi, Omar. Good to see you. Let me just start by giving you the viewpoint from where I stand in China. This is very much being seen as a move by the United States, messaging from the United States to Beijing to perhaps take things a step further, to perhaps initiate talks. Right now, the messages have been received, the envelopes, the emails have been opened. And that's where we stand. China is going to evaluate where it goes next. In fact, if we look at the statement from the government that came at 8 o'clock this morning, the exact phrasing is China is currently evaluating this. The timing of this is very interesting because this statement released during a holiday, a two-day holiday here in China that perhaps suggests that it may have something to say. It could have perhaps waited until next week to make this kind of very visible remark. At the same time, let's be clear, China does not want to appear that it's taking orders or actions from the United States. It does not want to be seen as the nation that caves in to the United States. In fact, over the last few days, we have seen a lot of attention on social media, a lot of propaganda, very pro-nationalist themes by the Chinese government saying that it will not kneel down. Another phrase we've heard is that bullies are paper tigers. It wants to stand defiant, and it is sending a message, especially to people here in China, that it's here for the long game. Nonetheless, this is a bit of a break from this stalemate that we have seen, and markets are reacting. You mentioned the U.S. futures. Today here in Asia, all of the major indexes closed in the green. They all had gains. That includes South Korea, Japan, of course, the Hang Seng in Hong Kong, which is seen as a benchmark index. Omar, I think it goes without saying, when there is financial tension, trade tension between the world's largest and second largest economies, it creates a lot of unease. Perhaps this is a small step forward.
Mark Stewart, a lot to keep an eye on here, but as we know, sometimes progress in these arenas goes very gradually, and if the posturing from China holds up, this will be a gradual process. Mark Stewart, really appreciate it.
Words of those potential trade talks between the U.S. and China comes as a massive tariff on millions of American purchases is now in effect. The de minimis exemption, as it's known, allowed goods worth under $800 to come into the U.S. duty-free, and it reshaped the way Americans shopped. The loophole allowed ultra-low-cost Chinese commerce sites like Shein and Temu to send everything from yarn to patio furniture to U.S. homes. But with the loophole expired, those items will face tariffs of up to 145%. For more on this, I want to bring in Ryan Young, who joins us from Chicago. He's a senior economist with the Competitive Enterprise Institute. Really appreciate you making the time early this morning for us here. So we'll get to the tariff deadline passing in a second, but just on the latest news, what do you make of China potentially opening the door to trade talks? I mean, to this point, Beijing's been saying essentially it won't be pushed around by the U.S. So could this development be considered a win for President Trump?
I doubt it. China's getting leveraged by the day, and we're going to see more evidence of that next week. The last ships to depart China that would not be subject to the 145% tariffs have already left, and next week is when they're going to start arriving at U.S. ports, first on the West Coast, then in the Gulf of Mexico and on the East Coast. And when those ports are seeing a fifth to a third less traffic than they were just a year ago, that's going to cause serious problems. UPS has already announced layoffs. Consumers are going to face shortages and higher prices. Most of what we import is actually intermediate goods that U.S. businesses use to make their products here in the U.S. So everyone is going to be feeling the pinch. And the more that happens and the longer that drags on, the less leverage that President Trump is going to have.
Right. Okay. So you're saying for U.S. consumers, they will see prices go up basically starting in a week or so. I mean, businesses will now have to make a tough decision as well, right? Sell products from China at more than double their previous prices, or just stop selling them altogether. So what will this mean for small sellers?
They're going to get hit harder. The de minimis exemption that you mentioned earlier, that doesn't apply so much to the Amazons or the Walmarts of the world. They import in bulk, so they already pay the same tariffs. Nothing changes for them. It's the small sellers who weren't paying tariffs, but now are going to start paying tariffs, who are going to get hit. They're going to see reductions in orders. A lot of them are going to go out of business altogether. Consumers are seeing prices more than double for some of the goods that they're importing, and they're going to get hit much harder than the big companies are.
So you talked about how shipping is going to be affected here. JP Morgan expects a 75 to 80% drop in imports from China. So what will that mean more broadly for the supply chain?
That's tough to tell at this point because there is no plan. Some companies we saw were in a midnight rush to buy up supplies. Some consumers were doing the same thing. If you need a new laptop, buy it now before the tariffs hit, that sort of thing. Other companies are standing pat. They're making a bet that maybe the tariffs will be gone in a month or in 6 months. Nobody knows who's right. Hopefully the upcoming talks will happen and they'll go smoothly and we'll see at least some tariff reduction, but nobody knows what's going on. All we know is it's going to put a drag on the economy for as long as those tariffs are in effect.
Yeah, certainly people don't appreciate all the chaos in the system right now. In the meantime, speaking of chaos, from a logistical point of view, I mean, what does that mean in practical terms for U.S. Customs? Do they now have to check every package coming from China, no matter how small?
Yeah, and they don't have the manpower to do it. President Trump tried to end that de minimis exemption back in January, and he had to draw it back within a week because packages were already piling up in warehouses. It was already creating delays. And now U.S. Customs is in a position where it has to hire 20,000 people or more on very little notice. Who knows what kind of facilities problems they're having. It's going to be unworkable. It's going to cause delays. It's going to cause supply chain problems all over it. It's not just for consumers, also for U.S. businesses.
Yeah. All right. So given now that there could be trade talks, do you see the administration now maybe pausing this before prices actually rise?
My guess is that they'll lower tariffs somewhat, but they'll still be higher than they were when Trump took office. So a partial rollback, not a full one. The best hope for everyone involved, especially people in the U.S., is that while the president's never going to admit that he made a mistake, maybe someone can convince him to change his mind. I think that is the best way to proceed with the negotiations.
Yeah, we shall see. So hard to predict, as you say. Ryan Young, really appreciate getting your expertise on this. Thank you so much.